Hey guys, we're going to be back for another video. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. Instead of modern, we're going to be doing a Pauper video. So we've got a bunch of common cards here that we're going to be working with. Let's go ahead and take a look at the deck. So first we've got a pretty standard mana base. We've got some life gain tap lands. We've got a good number of basics. Got 3 white cycling lands, 3 green cycling lands, a full set of Karoos, and then 3 Radiant Fountains. So the Radiant Fountains and the Blossoming Sands just give us some free life over the course of the game, which, because this deck is playing for the long game, helps a bit against some of the matchups. So let's go into what this deck really is trying to accomplish. So Midnight Guard and Presence of Gond is something that's kind of been floating around in Pauper for a while. So I wanted to build this deck, but all the lists that I could find online were like super combo oriented, with just like a bunch of tutors for creatures and enchantments, or not really tutors, but like what you get in Pauper, Commune with the God type effects, and protection spells for creatures, so like ways to give Midnight Guard protection from colors or hexproof and stuff like that. And I played with a couple different lists, and all of them seemed like if you couldn't get Midnight Guard Presence of Gone to work, then your deck just really wasn't particularly doing anything really relevant at all. So I wanted to keep the Midnight Guard Presence of Gone combo and then see what else I could make the deck do, sort of to give it some action in other matchups. So what I decided was I would add some Viridian Longbows so that the Midnight Guard would have something else to do. And then a viewer recommended to me that I try Pili-Pala, which, with the Presence of Gond and the Longbows, lets you pay 2 mana to get 1 mana and a trigger from one of these. So if you have, like, say 5 mana, or in this deck if you get to the late game even like 7 or 9 mana, you can do a good decent amount of damage or make a chunk of creatures. So we have 2 of those in there. I started with 1 and then I went to 4, and then 4 was too much, so I'm going to try 2. 2 seems to be working pretty well. And so since we beefed up the sort of combo aspect of the deck here, I also wanted to add secondary plans. So we've got 2 Basilica Guards, which are good defensive guys, but they also have Extort, which is what we're in the market for. And then I added 3 Sprout Swarm. So if you watched my modern video on the Bank Control deck, we were trying Sprout Swarm with Blind Obedience, sort of as the plan A of a deck, and it impressed me. It didn't really win very much, but I made some play mistakes, and Pauper is not particularly a less powerful format, but it's a very different format. So I wanted to try the Sprout Swarm Extort in an entirely different deck and see if it could work somewhere else. And then I went ahead and added 3 Essence Warden and 3 Soul Warden. Started with 4. I think 5 or 6 is a good number for these effects, so I'm going to try 3 of each. This just lets you gain... In real life, it would be an arbitrarily large number. On Modo, it's more how many times do you want to click. With Midnight Guard and Presence of Gond, every time you do the loop for a token, you also gain some amount of life depending on how many Wardens you have in play. And if you're using Sprout Swarm, you can also gain several life a turn with these. And they tap for mana for the Convoke, of course. So that's the major stuff that we're doing. We're doing the tap and untap tricks here, and then we're also doing some life gain here with the Sprout Swarms. So that left some other space in the deck, so I decided I wanted to add back in something that other people had been playing with, which is a sort of like semi-tutor or tutor enchantment package. So we've got these 4 auras that we can search for with Totem Guide Hartebeest. So we've got a Faith's Fetters, which pretty much just shuts down anything that they're trying to do. Just anything that they have in play, it's not going to do anything until they get rid of the Faith's Fetters besides tap for mana. We have I don't actually know how to pronounce this. I'm just going to call it Lignify. You can correct me if that's incorrect. We have a Lignify. So this is sort of in the same vein as the Faith's Fetters, but instead of gaining us life and keeping the creature from attacking and blocking, it is a little bit cheaper and it loses static abilities and triggered abilities. So if your opponent has, let's say they have their own Soul Warden and you don't want them to gain a bunch of life and then play like a Holy Light and sweep all of your elf tokens, you can Lignify their Soul Warden. It will lose the triggered ability and they won't gain any life. And because you're making like 30 elf tokens, giving them an 0-4 blocker doesn't really matter that much most of the games. Even if they have equipment, then they're not going to be able to attack through the Totem God Hearted Beast with like a Lignified guy with a Bone Splitter on it or whatever. We have a Forced Worship. I was originally running Pacifism, but again, this deck, the way it's built, you're going to be making a lot of tokens in most games, so you don't really care so much if they have blockers. So I decided to go with being able to bounce this and put it on something else. Especially because a lot of the decks in the format are playing like Momentary Blink or Dreamstalker or Core Skyfisher or even all of those cards. If they would be able to get rid of your pacifism, instead you just bounce the Forced Worship and they get a turn to do something with their guy and then you just replay it. And then so we've got the 2 Hearted Beast, and instead of going with 4 Hearted Beast, that was a little tough on the mana curve, I decided to run 2 Commune with the Gods, which can also fund the Midnight Guards or a Warden. And then over here, besides the Sprout Swarms, we've got 2 Pale Recluse, which help with the mana and also give us a bigger threat or blocker in the late game. And then 3 Journey to Nowhere to clear up the creatures that just maybe are not important enough to take their abilities away. You don't care if they come back into play later. And these are also pretty good against the Core Skyfisher, Dreamstalker type shenanigans. And then I don't think I mentioned this, we just got an Armadillo Cloak, so if the board is pretty clear, you don't need to get a removal spell, you don't have Midnight Guard, so the presence isn't going to do anything. You can just play Totem Guide, get an Armadillo Cloak, cloak up the guide, and you have a 4/7 Trample Lifelink, which is a pretty good beater. Creatures in Pauper are efficient, but they're usually pretty small. Like 1/1s and 2/2s are most of what's going on out there, except against Affinity. Some of the decks have higher toughness, like the Dreamstalker decks. But besides Affinity, most of the stuff you're going to be dealing with has 1 or 2 power. So a 4/7 is just gonna just dominate combat, and a 4/5 even is often good enough. It hasn't come up that I've put an Armadillo Cloak on a Pale Recluse, but there's no reason you couldn't. Okay, so that's the main deck. So let's go over the sideboard a little bit. So there's some overlap on the sideboard. So the sideboard is mostly removal. We've got 2 Fangren Marauders. I wanted to bring in a threat against the control decks, and most of the control decks are Tron decks. So I figured if they're going to be having Fangren Marauder and gaining a bunch of life, then why don't I just bring in my own Fangren Marauders, because it's not like I'm going to be able to get much bigger than a 5/5. If I bring in Aurochs Herds, then they're just going to get trumped by the opponent's Fangren Marauders or Gurmag Anglers or whatever. So I'm going to try the 2 Fangren Marauders myself. I have no main deck way to trigger these. And even after sideboard, I'd have to be doing stuff like Gleeful Sabotage my own Viridian Longbow. So we're really relying on the opponent triggering these if that's relevant, but mostly I just wanted to have access to a couple more just beefy threats to bring in matchups where the life gain stuff is just irrelevant, or the removal is bad, or anything like that. So that's those. We've got 2 Relic of Progenitus, just to interfere with the Dredge decks, or if any other Graveyard Synergy decks. I like the Relics a little bit more than like I don't remember if Purify the Grave is common or uncommon, but I like the relics more. They just sit in play and pressure for a while, and then if you need a card, eventually you can get rid of them. So same reasons they're good in Modern is why they're good here. So we've got 3 Gleeful Sabotage, which are good against Affinity, and they're also fine against Boggles. Boggles is a deck in Pauper as well as in Modern, so you want to be able to deal with that. And then there's just several decks that take advantage of enchantments and artifacts. So it's good to be able to deal with stuff like Reality Acid or Oblivion Ring or Journey to Nowhere like we have. So just any random artifacts or enchantments, we have an answer for them. We also have one Allay for decks that are more enchantment focused, like Boggles. We can just bring in another buyback spell to work with the Basilica Guards. And for 2 mana as an instant, it's not like you're paying a huge deal for the buyback. So I wanted to have access to one of those. We've got the Celestial Flares. These are good against Boggles, but they're also good against some of the more controlling decks that have access to like Gurmag Angler and stuff like that, or Fangren Marauders. A lot of those decks are also running Maul Drifter, but if we can take care of that with something like a Viridian Longbow or a Forest Worship, then we can hit the larger creatures with Celestial Flare and just get rid of them, get them out of the way. This is mostly important for decks where they have tramplers or flyers. Decks that are attacking us with one giant guy on the ground are going to have trouble getting through the Presence of Gone and the Sprout Swarm and the removal spells. But decks that have like Spire Golems or something, we want to be able to knock those out of the air. I actually had one Plummet in here for a while, but I decided to take out the Plummet and just diversify the removal a little bit more. And instead of having Plummet, we have Celestial Flare and Spider Silk Armor. So the Spider Silk Armors prevent their flying creatures that are small from attacking us, but they also come in against decks that have things like Holy Light or Electrickery, where they are trying to deal 1 damage to all of our tokens and kill them all. Instead, we can make our guys 1/2s, and they don't die. So it comes in, stops their removal spells, lets us do our thing. It's also relevant to note that it brings the toughness on Midnight Guard up past 3, so lightning bolts will no longer hit it. And if anybody's playing some of the other removal like Nameless Inversion or stuff like that, then it also misses. And it also puts Basilica Guards out of range of Galvanic Blast. So there's a lot of stuff that bumping with 1 toughness on our guys does. I almost have some of these in the main deck, but I don't think you can afford to draw them in the matchups where they're bad, and there are some of those matchups. And then finally we've got 2 Sunlance. So if there's a deck like Goblins or Delver or anything like that where they have a lot of 2 toughness, 1 toughness guys, we can bring in the Sunlances and just answer them efficiently. Alright, I'm going to go shut my door so nobody walks in, and then we're going to go play some matches. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's play a kill. Okay. So this deck, I have not played it long enough to get a feel on what the really bad and really good matchups are. It seems like any matchup where the opponent is just attacking with big guys on the ground. Like I played against a Cycling Guy Reanimator deck, and they just could never get any damage through. And I played against Delver, and Delver seemed pretty good against it. And then I played against the Reality Acid deck, and that seemed pretty even. Um, if I can get some creatures out quickly, then they have to use the acid on those instead of my lands. And I was able to combo them off one game, and then after sideboard, I had some stuff going on. So usually these queues fire a little bit quicker than this. I don't know if there's something going on keeping people from doing this. People may just be having dinner. If this doesn't fire in the next minute or two, we'll just go play some casual games in the tournament practice room. Yeah, it looks like nobody is hanging out. Looks like they're only firing every like 6 or 7 minutes. So let's just go play. Let's just go play some casual games. And then after this, we will go and check out the queues again and see if there's anybody waiting in there. Okay, so we lost the die roll. This deck, as I said, is playing for the long game, and its end game is really just to cast Sprout Swarm over and over again. So we don't really care if we're on the play or the draw unless our opponent is really fast. Opponent mulligans, we also mulligan, and this is fine. So opponents on 3 cards, they're probably going to concede. I'll keep a land on top. They have a land. My guess is they're just going to play for a little while, see what we're doing. Okay, they don't want to. We may not get a whole match out of this. Dismal Backwater kind of makes me want to bring in Spider Silk Armor. It implies that they have Muldrifters and Gurmag Anglers. But I'm just going to submit as if we can't guess what's in their deck. They could be an entirely different deck, like Brainstorm and Dismal Backwater is really not enough information. This is a iffy hand, but we have the combo and we also have a cycling land. And then we have some life gain mana. Land is not particularly what I wanted to draw there, but whatever. Okay, so they're on turn 1 Brainstorm again. Then maybe they play Evolving Wilds or something. Yeah. Okay, so this could be Mono Blue Delver. What do I want? More green or white? Have a plane, so let's cycle the step. And then play the other Blossoming Sands. So we don't know. They could just be playing this to splash like Gurmag Angler or something, or they could be an actual control deck. It's Weird that they would play Brainstorm before their land. Okay. I'm just going to go for it. Opponent has Gurmag Angler here. Three blue mana up. Another Brainstorm. If they tap down, then I think we win. They could have Daze, but we'll just play a untapped land to get around it. Okay, they're representing Counterspell, Deprive, all those good stuff. We'll go to 26. We can afford to take a couple hits from this. Yeah, I'm going to go for this. If he has a counter spell, he's probably not going to tap down anyway. Okay, so it's Deprive. Yeah. So we'll just cycle this Tranquil Thicket on his turn. And then next turn we can commune with the gods and maybe find another presence. Okay. So he's tapped out now, so we can play this Forced Worship. So let's go ahead and resolve that. And then I think I want to commune. Pale Recluse is definitely good here. Better than Soul Warden. Notice that if this were a pacifism, the Pale Recluse would be better. We can't actually attack. So I think I'm going to cycle this. Okay, so there's a Basilica Guard. So there's a threat that doesn't have to attack. Opponent has played quite a few Brainstorms. Probably just holds up Think Twice here. Oh, that's trouble. Okay. Let's just go ahead and flood the board. Now, depending on if he has a counter spell or not, drawing Sprout Storm could be very good here. Is this another Gurmag Angler? Oh. Okay. Let's play this. Yes to the Extort. Gonna play this so that we can cast Pale Recluse next turn. I don't think we need to chump block. Next turn we can block a Warden and a Recluse on an Angler and trade the Recluse for it. Okay. Fine, trading a Soul Warden for an Agni Wart. What else does he have? These blue-black control decks often play Evankar's Justice. My version does. So either he's not running it or we're lucky and he hasn't drawn it. He doesn't seem to be as heavy black. We'll see if he gets a swamp here. Yeah, he doesn't seem to be very heavy black. He seems to be more blue for a lot of cantrips, and then Gurmag Angler. Let's go to 14 here. That's pretty good. We don't have a Midnight Guard, but we have the Pilipala. So because we haven't drawn a Sprout Swarm, and we do have this Presence of Gond, I think I want to keep the Warden and lose the Guard. But if he has removal spells, then that could matter here. Yeah, he's just running like all cantrips and a couple counter spells and removal. Okay, Stormbound Geist. Pale Recluse is great against Stormbound Geist. Oh, never mind. I clicked through. Okay, whatever. Okay, so we can play Midnight Guard and Extort. We can play Midnight Guard and put Presence on it while he's tapped down. I think I like that. This gets us in trouble with Spell Pierce. But it plays around the other counter spells. And I think if he had like a removal spell, he would have used it last turn. No attacks here. Then this turn we're going to chump one with the guard and block the Pale Recluse on the Stormbound Geist. Think twice. Delver. Second Delver. Okay, opponent now has no cards in hand, so we are going to make 40 elf tokens. Let's block there. Block here. Nothing in hand. We could chump with the Pilipala since we have the Midnight Guard now. But I'd rather not. Pilipala is another flyer in case he removes the Pale Recluse. Okay. Does that change our plan? I think it does not. So let's go ahead and do this. Opponent could still have Evan Carr's Justice. Okay. Oh, so yeah, he's just going to be done because he lost game one. So that was a match against Blue-Black Control or Blue-Black Delver. Let's check out the cues. Still two needed. This time we won the die roll. We have guard present, so let's keep this. Commune also finds us a warden or whatever, and then we have a Heart of Beast for later. Opponent mauls to 6. I'm going to play the plains instead of the step, but I'm not going to cycle the step. I'm just planning on playing Sanctuary and bouncing with the plains, and then I want to play plains the turn after that to make my 3-drop, so I don't want him to know about the step in our hand. If we draw another land, I will... Okay, so I'll cycle the step and play the Sanctuary. Bounce the plains, F8. Okay, so this is a black deck with some stuff. I'm still gonna hold on to the lands he hasn't seen yet. Radiant Fountain is a fine play on turn 5 for the Hartebeest. I don't think this is the same guy. We'll see if he starts playing like mental notes and stuff. Okay. Then if he taps down... Okay, so he's got a Chainer's Edict. Let's go ahead and commune, see if we can find another Midnight Guard or a Pilipala. Redundant Presence of Gond is not that good. Cycle the Secluded Step. Play a Tranquil Thicket. Let's see if he taps out for a Gurmag Angler. Okay, he's got a Delver. He's going to set it up to flip the Delver. I think I'm just going to play Hartebeest and fetch the Armadillo Cloak. Might be worth having a Rancor in this deck, just to turn all of our 1/1s into good beaters. Like Sproutsborn plus Rancor is a pretty decent clock. That's hard to permanently answer. So let's go get an Armadillo Cloak. Or I could get a removal for the Delver. If the other Hartebeest gets countered, what would we rather have? I think I just want to go on the offensive. Reveals Ponder, that's good. I was worried it would be something like Doomblade. Even Vapor Snag would be kind of annoying because we only have the 1 cloak. Okay, so there's a Ponder. It's probably going to keep and then shuffle with the wilds. Okay, there's another Sprout Swarm. So we have several lines here. We can cycle the Tranquil Thicket and play Armadillo Cloak. We can cast Sprout Swarm with buyback after we attack for 2. Or we can play Presence of Gond on the Hartebeest and start making tokens. Let's cycle this first. Draw a Longbow, interesting. I think I want to go ahead and go for the Armadillo Cloak and see what he has. Probably has a Counterspell or a Deprive here. Negate, interesting. Okay, so then let's go ahead and try and resolve the Longbow. And I think we can attack. some of the Presence of Gone Midnight Guard list ran Auramancer, so we could get like stuff back, but it doesn't really matter. Like, he has Bajuka Bog anyway. So we're currently losing this race, but we have a lot of action in our hand. Let's go ahead and attack and see if he plays a removal spell. Be great if he wasted an Agony Warp here. Okay, we can buy back Sprout Swarm. I think I like that. I think like making him tap out on his turn is good. Otherwise we get an extra body for the longbow. It's also possible it was correct to just equip the longbow after we attacked, even though we can't use it this turn. But I want to try and resolve a Sprout Swarm. We're not losing the race by a huge amount. We're just trading 2 and 3 at pretty even life totals. So I'm not feeling like I'm under a ton of pressure to end the game immediately. Interesting that he doesn't cast Chainer's Edict there. Okay, he has Dispel. Let's try another Heartbeast. If he has Dispels and Negates, okay. So we're mostly probably through his counters. I'm just going to play the step to give us a 6th mana, which is important for the longbow. My guess here is that he flashes back Chainer's Edict while we're tapped out. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Oh, Maul Drifter. Okay, interesting. In that case, Delver and Maul Drifter. I think I want to bring in the spider web thingy, Armor of Silk or whatever. Resolve a Presence of Gone here. And if he counters this, that's fine. We have 2 more. Yep, you got it. How about this one? And then I'm just going to pass. So now his Chainer's Edict can only make us sacrifice an elf token. But we are dead in 2 turns in the air, so we need to get these longbows running. It may actually be too slow at this point. Rager is not an issue. We can block that all day. Okay, is this a Gurmag Angler? Okay. This is probably the same guy from last time. You can check on the video later. Ah, that's not what we needed to draw. Yeah, we just die here. We're a little bit flooded, a little bit constrained on mana. Needed to get a longbow into play at some point earlier. Okay, so this looks like a matchup where the celestial flares are good and the armors are good. All the removal is good. Silica guards don't block anything, so we don't want those. Longbow only kills Delver, so we can trim those. I want to keep the Pale Recluses for sure. None of his creatures have abilities that matter, but I do want to gain the life. And I guess we can trim one Sprout Swarm because he doesn't have 1/1s and he's running Dispel and stuff like that. And we're cutting the Extort anyway, so there's no real synergies with it. Okay. This hand is not bad. We'll obviously need to hit some more mana. Okay, Ponder. I don't remember if we saw Thought Scour from this guy last game. We definitely didn't see Mental Note. I almost wonder if it's a different guy running a very similar deck. Okay, so that's a land. I don't think we want to cycle it. Green versus white. Deathmark is uncommon, so I don't think it really matters. We can play that. Then our choice is to pick up this or save it to pick up the cycling land. And I think we just want to pick up the Blossoming Sands. I don't think the blue-black Delver decks run like Boomerang or anything to bounce our bounce lands and punish us for it. If we were playing against like the Reality Acid deck, I would want to save my bounce lands to protect against land destruction. Okay. I'm not going to attack this turn because I'm worried about Spell Stutter Sprite. Actually, let's see. If you play Spell Stutter Sprite during combat to eat our guy, then we play another Warden and he doesn't have Spell Stutter Sprite. So it's actually slightly better for us if he plays the Sprite as an ambusher than if he plays it as a counter spell. Okay, no Sprite. Let's just drop the Soul Warden, which I expect to get countered. But he may not care about these very much. Okay, he countered it. Don't use our mana. The Forest gets us up to 5 mana for the Hartebeest. Interesting. Okay, so we have a couple lines here. We can play Armadillo Cloak on the Warden and attack for 3 and gain 3. That's pretty bad if he plays a Gurmag Angler. We have a Journey to Nowhere, so it's not super bad, but a 3/3 is not that great. Like, it trades with Delver, it bounces off Angler. It's slightly bigger than Mauldrifter, but not too. So we can also play Forest, which gives us Sprout Swarm next turn, but then we miss on Hartebeest, so we'll be locked into Sprout Swarm for a couple turns. Or we can play the Secluded Step and pass. I'm just going to go with the Sprout Swarm plan. If we tap him out on his turn, then we can at least resolve the Armadillo Cloak, and even if it's not particularly great, it gives us something to do next turn. So he's going to brainstorm. He may brainstorm lock himself here, where he sees cards and then has no way to get rid of them, and he's drawing dead for a couple turns. Okay, so he didn't have a shuffler, but he can scry those cards to the bottom, or at least one of them. No way, he's going to draw one for... Yeah, I don't know. This doesn't seem very good. Serum Visions is not that good in Pauper. Preordain is legal, I'm pretty sure. So he has to discard on his turn. But I think I'm going to give him the opportunity to use Dispel anyway. Okay, so he had it. I'd like to draw an untapped land here. Nope. Let's go ahead and cycle the step since we drew a land. Presence of Gond. Is that better than Armadillo Cloak? I think it is. So let's play the Sands. Play the Presence. Make a 1/1. This is not particularly good. It's super slow, but it's gonna... What is this? Vapor Snag? Okay. I'm actually pretty happy that that made him use a Vapor Snag. Do we want to go for Heart Beast, or do we want to stick both of our Essence Wardens? Let's attack. Let's see if he does anything here. He's used one actual counterspell. I think I just want to play the Wardens. Okay, there's a Delver. I don't think that's even worth a Journey to Nowhere. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We don't quite have that. I'm not going to trade guys with his Delver. Okay, another counterspell. I could attack with the Elf Warrior, but if he doesn't flip the Delver, I want to have something back to block it. Like, our life total is high, but that doesn't mean we want to waste it for no reason. Okay, there's a Commune. Let's use the Commune. Get another Warden. Dump all these lands that we're probably happy not to draw, even though they'd let us cast Recluse. I'm just going to go for the Cloak now. Okay. I went for the Cloak because on every turn we draw a land, I want to be able to play the Recluse. Hopefully we can resolve it. So here's a Gurmag Angler, I think. Sultai Scavenger. Okay. Play a Warden. As you can see, the deck just really doesn't need 8 of these guys. We have 6 and we're already running plenty. Let's play the Pella. The annoying thing about this is he's keeping up 2 mana for a counter spell, but we know he has negate in his deck, so we don't know if the counter spell is counter spell, deprive, or negate. Or it could even be Essence Scatter or something. Or like, I think there's a Essence Scatter variant from New Phyrexia where you lose a life, or it could be Nullify. There's just a million different things that would make sense to have against us if they're in your sideboard. Okay, he doesn't want to get attacked at all. Okay, so there's a redundant Journey to Nowhere, so let's test for negate. Actual counterspell. That is good news for our Recluse. Can't attack into his 3/3. Maybe I want another Armadillo Cloak in the sideboard for these matchups where all of the opponent's creatures, or at least most of them, are just tiny little dirtles. Or maybe I should just be bringing in, like, sideboard an extra land and bring in the Fangren Marauders. I don't know. Okay. There's a Presence of Gond. I want that to resolve more than I care about the Journey to Nowhere. Okay. Okay, opponent is fine with that being the end of the game. That seems a little premature if it's the same guy because he has Agony Warps. So we definitely want to keep the Spider Silk Armors if he has Sultai Scavengers. Celestial Flare is fine. We could bring in Relic of Progenitus. That seems good. And then what do we cut for the second one? I guess I don't even like Commune that much in this matchup. I do like Sunlance. Let's try it this way. Okay, 1 Warden, 1 removal, some auras. Opponent mauls to 6. This is a pretty decent 7. It's 3 lands and 4 spells with a good spread of what we're trying to accomplish. Okay, so there's a Delver. I'm going to instantly kill the Delver. I just don't want to mess with it. If you are on the play and you mulligan to 6 and play a Delver on turn 1, a lot of the times your free Scry lets you put a spell on top of your library. So you can just instantly flip the Delver. That's actually pretty annoying. Opponent's gonna miss a land drop. Yeah. I just want to find a creature to put these auras on. That is technically a creature, the best kind of a creature. Ugh. I am hitting land drops. Opponent is not hitting land drops. Opponent has the same number of cards in hand as us. I think we're doing okay. There's really nothing the opponent can do that kills us because we have the Celestial Flare for any size creature. So I guess what we'd have to be worried about would be like Gurmag Angler with Negators Dispel backup. Just test for a negate. He might not care about the longbow since we already killed a Delver. I boarded out the Basilica Guards and one Warden. So that's 3 creatures. I think we didn't... I don't think we boarded out enough creatures that we should be worried about it. I guess we boarded out a Sprout Storm as well. Yeah, we may get punished for boarding out several creatures. Evoke Muldrifter, okay. Opponent's hand is now 7 spells to our 5 spells plus a longbow. Alright, now we have planes. We can do literally everything in our deck. We can't cast Pale Recluse, but we could cycle it if we needed to. So we have no more dead draws left. Wonder if opponent has ways to get this Muldrifter back. We didn't see any before, so I'm guessing no. Okay, so here's a big guy. Okay, we're going to kill that with a Sun Lance, hopefully. Okay, there's the Pale Recluse. Excuse me. Okay. I'm interested as to why he doesn't counter that. I wonder if his hand is just a bunch of delve creatures, so he doesn't care if he has to chain them. That looks like what's going on. Sure, I'll play this. Kind of gives away that we're trying to do something big. If he counters this, I'm hoping he does it with a double blue counter spell. Okay, does not counter it. There's no possible way that his hand is just all creatures. Okay, let's hope he doesn't draw an untapped blue source here. He does. Alright, I'm just going to play this Pale Recluse unless I draw a different creature. Do we care about playing around days? I don't think so. Then this gets countered. I'm assuming. I mean, a lot of his counter spells don't hit it, but I'm assuming he has a double blue counter spell. And then he's going to play like a Gurmag Angler or something. Another Sultai Scavenger. Okay. Midnight Guard gets countered. If we have to, we can use Armadillo Cloak as a removal spell because it doesn't give lifelink. It's worded so that I always get the life. But that's just always an awful, awful feeling. So we're going to take a couple hits from this thing down to like 13 or whatever. Because our deck has plenty of removal spells left in it. And most of our creatures plus an Armadillo Cloak is bigger than a Sultai Scavenger anyway. Okay, this is a Maul Drifter. So this is the turn where we need to draw a creature and resolve it. Ugh. This is just awful. Like, we boarded out 3 actual creatures and a Sprout Swarm. This just doesn't feel like we should be getting this punished. Okay, there's a creature. If he doesn't have a removal spell for this, this should win us the game. Like, we have to give him a full turn of window to interact with it. But with how much mana we have available, Longbow Pilipala is just gonna... It's gonna clear his board first, and then start doing huge chunks to his face. Okay, he has another Edict. So we're in some trouble here. I think this is the turn where we play Armadillo Cloak on the Scavenger and try and resolve that. Okay, Radiant Fountain is not bad. I don't think that changes our line with the Cloak. This is a little bit dangerous because if he can get us down to 7, it still kills us. Because it's a trigger again. It's not lifelink. It doesn't work like lifelink. It's a triggered ability. Okay, so we go to 4. Go back to 9. Opponent has so many spells in hand that they are discarding end of turn. We also took out our commune with the gods, which would find us a creature. Yeah, I think we boarded too much removal in and too many creatures out. If he flips Delver here, we die. Into the Royal. Okay. That seems poor. I think he doesn't know how this interaction works. That he can kill us if he does enough damage to get us to 0 before the trigger happens. Which, to be fair, like, Lifelink has replaced this ability for like years at this point, so people expect it to work like Lifelink. Annoying. I'm just going to spend the mana on this right now because if he removes it, we're dead anyway. Okay. This is a really good sideboard card against us. Okay, that's lethal. Both teams played hard. Like, maybe I should have blocked the, like, traded for the Delver, but I think we lost that game during sideboarding. Okay, we lost the die roll. So that's something I'll try and be aware of in the future, is maintaining threat density during sideboarding. Okay, so this has the guards and the swarm. We have access to 4 mana for the fetters and a warden. Okay. This is probably the reality acid deck. Our hand is pretty bad for that matchup because of how slow all of our lands are, but we'll see what we can do. It could also be the Kuldotha Rebirth Core Skyfisher deck. No, it's probably reality acid if they play 2 Tranquil Coves immediately. Okay, that's interesting. Maybe it's not the reality acid deck. I'm going to gamble and play the Sanctuary. Okay. Now what do I want to do? I could cycle the Recluse for a forest and then cycle the Tranquil Thicket. How does that sound? That sounds not garbage. Once again, against blue decks, I don't want to trade my Soul Warden for a Spellstutter Sprite. Esper something? Esper Delver, maybe? Mana Tithe me? Okay. Next turn, I think the play I want to make is Longbow and Equip. Especially if he plays a Delver or anything like that. Okay, this is a Morph. Okay. Now I'm curious. Morph Bone Splitter. I'm worried that this is a Gathan Raiders and he's just going to hit me for 1,000,000 damage. I think I actually may want even more lands in this deck. Like, maybe I shouldn't be cycling the lands, but maybe I just want more lands. Okay. Trying to remember what morphs are common in Esper colors that I would want to play in a deck with Bone Splitter. Like Echo Tracer and Skin Thinner, maybe? There's probably some super obvious Megamorph creature that I'm not thinking of from Dragons. Okay, let's play that as a land. Play a Soul Warden. Okay. That doesn't really make sense with Bone Splitter. Yep. If I remember correctly, Miscalculation is one of the more expensive counterspells in this format, dollar-wise. Let's just kill this. He might have, like, Saving Grasp or something. And I don't have any way to get back that Faith's Fetters anyways. Okay. I wonder if there's any like common like enchanted creature gets +4/+4 and has vigilance or something. Just make some random guy just completely enormous. Those are the kind of cards that I just never pay attention to because they're completely awful in like pretty much every format. But if I'm running Totem Guide Heart of Beast, then maybe I just want a way to make it huge. Like +3/+3 and flying on a guy, something like that. Let's play around days. I think since I have a presence and a removal spell, I'm just going to grab the cloak. Yeah, I respect like Last Gasp and Agony Warp enough that I'm not going to block there. Okay, so let's try the cloak. As expected, he countered it. Let's use one of these Presence of Gods. And I think we're going to let this hit us because I want to have more tokens in play for the Sprout Swarms and the bow. Okay, more mana. Next turn, when he attacks with the Seagate, we can kill it, or we can try and kill it, and we can try and buy back a Sprout Swarm as well. So next turn is going to be really a focal point for whether or not this game is going to us or going to him. Because right now I'd say I'm slightly ahead, but his hand could change that pretty easily if he has like a Doomblade or something. Okay, so before blocks we want to make this. Then we want to double block. And then we want to shoot the Oracle. And after that, we're going to Sprout, Swarm, and Buyback, convoking the untapped elf. Oh, God. Okay, well, that didn't work. Okay, but our Sprout Swarm resolves, so I feel fine. He just can't straight up cannot beat Sprout Swarm. Okay. Sunlance seems very good. We might want Spite. God. This is why I hate playing in the tournament practice room. This is just, it happens literally half the matches. These games are firing like every 10 minutes. Let's try one more. Okay, this is an easy mulligan. We have one land and it's a bounce land. This is a weak keep. Don't need a second longbow. It also helps that we're on the draw here. Okay, looks like we're playing in some kind of elf deck. So we can cycle this for a white source, or we can commune and try and find a creature to put bow on. Yep, those are some elves. Elf, elf, elf. Continue to make elves. Okay, so he has his own Essence Warden. He's probably just going to play his entire hand right here. And then we'll see if we can do anything about it. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. Buckle in, boys. We're going for a long ride. The only way this is a short game is if we are the ones who die quickly. Okay. So let's commune, and then we can cycle next turn. I kind of want to take a third journey, but I don't want to have half my presences in the graveyard. we need to find a creature pretty quick. And like Sprout Swarm is fine, trades 1 for 1 with whatever. But if we can find a Midnight Guard or a Basilica Guards, that would actually be pretty decent. So we'll see if he has like a Rancor or anything. Looks like an Elvish Visionary. Okay. I think that's actually less scary to me than an Elvish Visionary would have been. I guess it depends on what the last card in his hand is. Like, this is much less scary than like a Timberwatch Elf or something. Okay. So this is what we have to beat right now. Island. Interesting. I wonder if that is for Keep Watch or if he's running the Lorwyn one where you name creature types. Let's go to 15. Okay. We can Sprout Swarm for a guy and block. We can Sprout Swarm for a guy and not block, and then put presence on it. We can Longbow, or we can cycle. I think our plan is to cycle Pale Recluse, and then play 2 Journey to Nowheres. So this would be a matchup where it would be nice to have Holy Light. Then we go to 8. Okay, and then let's see what he plays. Plays nothing. Plays Island. Plays Nettle Sentinel. Okay, so we can get rid of Priest of Titania and Nettle Sentinel. Oh, I forgot. I'm playing very poorly today. I apologize. Yeah, that loses us the game on the spot. I'm thinking through my plays and I'm verbalizing them, and then I'm not actually making them. Okay, so we want Sunlance. Wingify seems great. Faith's Fetter seems really slow. Forced Worship is pretty bad. I guess we can take out Faith Setters and Forced Worship and bring in Sunlance and just have more efficient removal. I don't think he's going to have any enchantments we need to care about. Like, the only enchantment I would expect out of his deck is he brings in his own Spider Silk Armors, expecting Holy Light, which we don't have, so we don't care. Or, this is good. Or he has Rancor, and like, using a card to kill a Rancor is very bad. And so this hand actually does stuff in the first 3 turns of the game, so that should help. Let's just keep him slowed down. We're actually looking pretty good this game. If we can draw land and play our Midnight Guard, we're in good shape. Nope. I'm going to convoke the Sprout Swarm to make a guy and gain a life. We have Presence of Gone, Midnight Guard, and I don't think he has removal. So I'm not really worried about being able to make guys if we have mana. Okay, there's the Timberwatch elf I was worried about. And I didn't play the Sprout Swarm because it doesn't matter anymore. Like, the reason to have another 1/1 was to try and trade with something. That's just not going to happen. I definitely think this deck needs more lands. That's my takeaway from this session. Either more lands or maybe Avacyn's Pilgrims. Seven. So if he wants to save his Warden, then we gain like 6 extra life. So I'm fine with that. Because otherwise that Timberwatch activation would hit us in the face. Okay. Okay, so I think if we don't die this turn, then we might be okay. So he's going to attack. Wait, no. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. He's going to attack with everything. I'm not going to block. He's going to Timberwatch an untapped or an attacking guy. We go to 9. I like to draw a land. That's not the land I wanted to draw, but it works. Presence. See, slow rolling and naturalize here. Okay, now it's too late for naturalize to stop us because we can do Sprout Swarm. Seven. Okay, so this gives us blockers for all of his guys. So I'm going to stop there for now because he has the Essence Warden. Let's go ahead and yield to that trigger. Yield to that trigger. Yeah, of course. Okay. Yeah. I mean, he's gonna gain like 300 life, but 300 life versus 300 creatures doesn't really do anything. Okay, so against Gleeful Sabotage, I just don't have anything to bring in. Like, I don't have Mana Tides or anything. So we're just gonna have to try and do the same thing again. So what my plan was, had he not had Sabotage, was play and equip Longbow on the Midnight Guard. Then we can make 5 guys, 5 Elf Warrior tokens off of the Midnight Guard Presence of God, and then when the Midnight Guard is untapped for making the 5th guy, you tap him for the Longbow to deal 1 damage, and then you tap the 5 Elf Warriors to convoke Sprout Swarm, which makes another creature come into play, which untaps Midnight Guard, and you can make 5 more Elf Warriors, convoke for the Sprout Swarm, tap for a damage. So you make 5 guys, ping for a damage, 5 guys, ping for a damage, and you just loop until all your opponent's creatures are dead, and then you have a bunch of guys and kill them. So that would have gotten rid of the Essence Warden. So then he would have stopped gaining life on all of our triggers. That's generally unnecessary. Generally, just making like 400 1/1s is good enough. But there are occasions where, like, you know your opponent has a sweeper and you just have to like kill them immediately, and you can do that with the sorry. You can do that with the Longbow Sprout Swarm addition to the combo. Okay, let's play Journey and Radiant Fountain and Longbow. That was a good draw because it's an untapped land that we can bounce with our Sanctuary that gives us more life. And it's probably correct to hold this until we can activate it. But if he's going to Gleeful Sabotage here, we're going to lose anyway. Because he's going to get his Timberwatch back. Yeah, that's what he's got. Okay. So we don't die on the spot here. We've got a couple turns to find something to do. So we want to find a Presence of God or another removal spell. Okay. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. So I don't want to cycle the Secluded Step. I just want to get back to Radiant Fountain. Okay, now we're in the race to see who can gain more life. My wardens are better than his wardens because my life total matters more in this matchup. Like, as you saw in the game we already won, we're just perfectly happy to make 500 creatures. Okay, get back your Timberwatch Elf. We're getting into the point where we're in danger. I think we need to play Midnight Guard this turn, and then we have 2 turns this next turn and the turn after to draw Presence of God. Opponent has no cards left in hand. Maybe we have 3 turns. The issue is, like, I guess I can block with 1 Warden. Yeah, I think I can block with 1 Warden. So if he attacks with everything, then we can take out the Priest of Titania. I guess if we're not dying this turn, we could also block with the Midnight Guard. He might just attack with the Huntmaster and the unresisted guys. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to stop on my upkeep and Forest Cycle the Recluse. Oh my god. Clicked through my upkeep. I love the game of Magic. This software is garbage. This is just the worst software, gaming software at least, that I've ever interacted with. Like, I say that as someone who played the Elder Scrolls Daggerfall, which was a game that would just freeze all the time and delete your save files. Magic Online is worse. I don't even know if he can really attack here since I killed his Timberwatch Elf. And we have 2 large. He might have something like Gather Courage or whatever, but whatever. I don't care. Yeah, this is a good trade for us. Okay, so we can play this Recluse. Okay, now he's stuck until he finds a Timberwatch, and we're stuck until we find a Longbow or something. Ranger's fine. So we at least didn't get punished for the game showing us that we were not in our upkeep yet. Okay, so here's a blue source for his keep watch or whatever. Okay, it's the Lorwyn one. Yeah. Okay, so he draws 10 cards or whatever. So that probably finds him a Timber Watch elf. So we're on a short clock again. See what he discards. Forest. Oh, did it. Okay. So that is how the deck works. You can see we lost Midnight Guards, we had our stuff blown up, and we still got to combo through it. Okay, so if I remember correctly, that is 2 losses and 2 wins. I'll check the queues. I'm not going to play any more tournament practice. Pauper has not fired for half an hour, so I'm going to call that video done. So thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned. I may go back to Modern for the next video. I may do some more Pauper. Just whatever people want to see.